Queen Elizabeth II was more than a political figure or a symbol of British tradition. During her 70-year reign, she stood at the center of historical events that shaped the modern world. However, behind the splendor of the crown and the rigidity of royal protocols, many believe Elizabeth bore a legacy that transcends earthly power, connecting to spiritual roots and occult practices that encompass the very essence of the monarchy. But what exactly did Elizabeth II represent in the spiritual realm? Was her death, laden with symbolism, the closing of an energetic cycle that shaped the destiny of nations for centuries? Let us explore, throughout this narrative, how her life, her lineage, and even the rituals surrounding her funeral might hold clues to a much deeper and unknown reality. After all, what does her death reveal about the spiritual mysteries surrounding the British monarchy? The legacy of the British monarchy is deeply rooted in traditions that extend beyond politics or culture. Since its beginnings, royalty has been shrouded in a veil of mystery and symbolism, where every gesture, object, and ritual seems imbued with deeper meaning. Many believe that the royal family serves as the guardian of secrets intertwined with the occult, perpetuating practices that transcend generations and link the throne to spiritual and energetic forces. The idea that British monarchs descend from divine lineages is not new. For centuries, they have claimed connections to mythical figures like King Arthur and even biblical ancestors. This concept not only reinforced their authority over subjects, but also created a symbolic bond with higher forces. The divine right of kings was more than a political justification. It was a declaration that the monarchy's earthly power was intrinsically linked to the spiritual realm. These claims of divine lineage are closely tied to the rituals accompanying the coronation of monarchs. The coronation ceremony, held at Westminster Abbey, is a clear example of this. Every detail of the ceremony, from the sacred oil used to anoint the monarch to the ceremonial objects, harks back to practices that evoke a direct connection with the divine. It is no coincidence that many of these rituals parallel practices in esoteric societies. The symbols present in the royal coat of arms also reinforce this narrative. The unicorn, the lion, and the heraldic elements are often interpreted as representations of cosmic and spiritual forces. For instance, the chained unicorn is seen by some as a symbol of wild energy that has been tamed and placed in service to the crown, a reflection of the balance between earthly and spiritual power. Another intriguing aspect of the monarchy's hidden legacy is its connection to the Order of the Garter, a secretive society founded in the 14th century. Officially described as a chivalric order, many believe the order is linked to hermetic and alchemical practices, preserving knowledge that dates back to antiquity. Elizabeth II, as head of this order, is thought to have played a crucial role in safeguarding these secrets. The location of royal castles also raises questions. Many of them, such as Windsor Castle, are situated in strategic areas associated with ley lines, which occultists consider natural energy pathways connecting sacred sites around the world. Is it mere coincidence that these locations were chosen to house the monarchy, or was there a greater purpose related to the flow of these energies? Over the centuries, the British monarchy has also been linked to secret societies like the Freemasons. Although the details of these connections remain obscure, there is evidence that many members of the royal family were Freemasons, using these networks to consolidate power and perpetuate esoteric traditions. These links reinforce the idea that the monarchy plays a role in a global network of spiritual influence. Curiously, the very concept of the crown is interpreted by many as an esoteric symbol. In spirituality, the crown is associated with the crown chakra, the point of connection between the individual and the divine. Thus, the act of crowning a monarch is not merely a formality but a ritual symbolizing the opening of a channel of communication between the sovereign and higher forces. During Elizabeth II's long reign, this perception of a hidden legacy was reinforced by her enigmatic demeanor and her role as a figure of stability. Although she rarely spoke about spiritual or esoteric matters, her presence was often seen as a point of balance in a chaotic world. Could this have been part of a carefully constructed role within this hidden legacy? The history of the monarchy is also rich with references to sacred and mysterious artifacts, such as the Stone of Destiny, used in the coronation of Scottish and British kings. This stone, which is said to possess mystical properties, symbolizes the connection between the monarch and the forces of the earth. Over the centuries, it has been revered as an object of great spiritual power. In modern times, the esoteric traditions of the monarchy seem less evident, yet they still permeate the collective imagination. Could it be that Elizabeth II, even in an increasingly skeptical world, maintained this spiritual connection? Could her death have released or altered these energies, triggering changes we have yet to understand? The idea that the monarchy is the guardian of ancient knowledge is not only fascinating but also raises important questions about the role of symbolism and ritual in our world. What is the true impact of these hidden traditions on modern society? Are these rituals genuinely influencing global events, or are they merely remnants of a bygone era? Elizabeth II, with her longevity and influence, embodied the hidden legacy of the monarchy like few before her. Her life and death not only closed a chapter in British history but also left questions about the future of this legacy. Will it continue to shape the world as it always has, or are we witnessing the beginning of a new era? Elizabeth II's funeral was an event of epic proportions, watched by billions around the globe. For many, it was merely a dignified farewell to a queen. However, the ceremony's details, symbolism, and carefully executed rituals suggest something deeper. Each element seemed designed to convey hidden messages, reflecting a broader understanding of power, spirituality, and energetic transition. The Queen's coffin, draped in the royal standard, was more than a symbol of her earthly authority. To esoteric scholars, it also represented her spiritual connection to the realms she ruled. The standard, divided into quadrants representing different territories under British dominion, is seen as a manifestation of harmony between the physical and spiritual planes, with each region symbolizing an energetic facet of the whole. Above the coffin rested the imperial crown, the scepter, and the orb. These items, used in her coronation and now present at her funeral, carry profound meanings. The crown is more than an ornament. It symbolizes the crown chakra, the connection between the monarch and the divine. The scepter, featuring the largest cut diamond in the world, is regarded as a channel of power linking the monarch to universal energy. Meanwhile, the orb, with its cross atop a globe, represents the balance between the spiritual and the earthly. These items reinforce the idea that Elizabeth's power transcended her physical life. The burial site was also deeply significant. St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle is intimately connected to the Order of the Garter, of which Elizabeth was the head. The chapel, with its Gothic architecture and ancestral history, is considered a place of intense spiritual energy. Burying Elizabeth there was not merely a traditional choice, but also a way to perpetuate her energetic influence at one of the kingdom's power points. Many esoteric theorists have pointed to the ley lines crossing the United Kingdom, connecting sacred sites like Stonehenge, Avebury, and Windsor Castle. These lines, regarded by occultists as natural energy channels, make such locations especially suited for rituals and ceremonies of great impact. Elizabeth's burial under these conditions could be seen as a means of preserving her energy and maintaining the balance of these forces within the realm. Even the floral arrangements at the funeral were subject to spiritual interpretation. Each plant chosen carried specific symbolism: rosemary, associated with memory; myrtle, linked to eternal love; and oak, a symbol of spiritual strength. Together, these elements formed a message of continuity and renewal, suggesting the Queen was leaving behind not only a physical legacy but also an energetic one. The hymns performed during the ceremony also carried specific frequencies that, according to sound scholars, have the power to align energetic fields. The music chosen was not just a tribute to the Queen but a tool for creating harmony during a moment of global transition. Were these choices intentional or mere coincidences? The reading of scriptures deserves attention as well. Among the selected biblical passages were texts addressing ascension, eternity, and heavenly realms. For occultists, these messages go beyond religious comfort. They reflect a larger narrative of spiritual transition and the continuity of power on another plane. Were these readings a reflection of the Queen's role as a keeper of secrets beyond the material world? Another symbolic element was the tolling of Westminster Abbey's bell, which rang 96 times, once for each year of Elizabeth's life. In numerology, this number is considered an indicator of complete cycles and universal harmony. Was it simply a gesture of respect, or also a way to seal the energy of her earthly cycle and ensure her passage to another dimension? The act of lowering the coffin into the ground at St. George's Chapel was a moment laden with meaning. For many spiritual traditions, this gesture symbolizes the return of a physical body to the earth while the soul ascends to a higher plane. The connection with the Order of the Garter reinforces the notion that Elizabeth was not merely being buried but integrated into a cycle of spiritual renewal. The ceremonies surrounding the funeral also reflect practices observed in other spiritual cultures. The death of a figure of great power is often marked by rituals aligning energies on a collective level. Could Elizabeth's funeral have been a similar event, designed to stabilize the impact of her death on the global subconscious? The global emotional reaction to the funeral can also be seen as part of this energetic impact. Collective mourning creates a unique energy field, often channeled in rites of passage to strengthen spiritual transitions. Even in her farewell, Elizabeth seemed to play a central role in this process. Ultimately, the funeral ceremony was more than a historical event. It was a collective ritual marking the transition of a figure who embodied stability and power. But did this event also leave clues about what is to come? Will the energies set in motion during the funeral have lasting repercussions? Elizabeth II, until her final moments, remained a figure that challenged our understanding of power and spirituality. Her funeral was a farewell but also a milestone in the spiritual history of the world. What does her passing signify for the future? The narrative of the sacred lineage of the British monarchy is far more than a mythological or esoteric element. Throughout history, it has been wielded as a powerful tool to consolidate royal power and reinforce the idea that the British royal family not only governs but is destined to lead by divine right. This notion permeates traditions, rituals, and even the public perception of the monarch's roles, especially in the case of Elizabeth II. The association of royalty with the Holy Grail, for instance, did not emerge by chance. During the medieval period, the legend of King Arthur was shaped as a reflection of the monarchical ideal. Arthur, the just and protective king of Britain, was portrayed as the guardian of the Grail, a symbol of spiritual purity and divine connection. The British monarchy has utilized these narratives to associate its rulers with this archetypal image. Elizabeth II, with her composure and serenity, was seen by many as a modern embodiment of this archetype. Throughout history, the idea of divine lineage has been widely used to legitimize monarchs' power. During the Elizabethan era, for example, the connection to Arthurian mythology was reinforced by throne propagandists. Elizabeth I, known as the Virgin Queen, was compared to the Lady of the Lake, another key figure in Arthurian legend. This parallel was vital in consolidating her position during a time of intense political rivalry. Elizabeth II inherited this symbolic legacy, but in a modern context where such narratives required greater subtlety to maintain their relevance. Beyond mere symbolism, some scholars point to historical records and artifacts suggesting a more concrete relationship between the monarchy and the Grail. Among these is the so-called King Edward's chair, used in the coronation of British kings. This throne is regarded by some as a receptacle of spiritual energies, directly tied to sacred rituals. Speculation abounds that it was designed as a point of connection between the monarch and higher forces, serving as a modern reflection of Arthur's mythical role. Ley lines, often mentioned in esoteric theories, not only traverse the monarchy's centers of power but connect these spaces to a broader network that includes energetic points around the world. This interconnection suggests a strategic vision, where royal castles and palaces were built to harmonize and amplify cosmic energies. Throughout her reign, Elizabeth II participated in numerous events at these locations, prompting the question, to what extent do the locations of these spaces influence the throne's stability? In the specific case of Windsor Castle, historical records indicate it was constructed not only as a defensive fortress but also as a spiritual center of influence. Documents from its founding period show that its architects regarded the local topography as sacred. By being buried there, Elizabeth II perpetuated this connection, solidifying Windsor as a site of transition between the material and spiritual worlds. A lesser-known aspect of this sacred lineage is its relationship with apocryphal texts and Gnostic traditions. During the medieval period, manuscripts associated with the Grail often mentioned a hidden lineage, destined to lead the world in times of crisis. Modern theorists suggest that the royal family may have preserved fragments of these texts, influencing their view of their role on the global stage. Even more intriguing is the political impact of this narrative. During the colonial period, the British monarchy used the idea of sacred lineage to justify its global expansion. By presenting the monarchs as divinely chosen, they succeeded in uniting vastly different cultures under a single dominion, a concept that still resonates within the Commonwealth. Elizabeth II played a crucial role in this process, viewed as both a conciliatory and protective figure, as well as the embodiment of a unique spiritual heritage. Coronation rituals reinforce this connection. The use of sacred oil to anoint the monarch harkens back to ancient practices where anointing symbolized the investiture of divine power. For many, this ritual serves as proof that the British monarchy not only preserves traditions but perpetuates practices laden with deep spiritual significance. The Grail question also resurfaces in popular culture, with theories linking the monarchy to modern quests for the artifact. While these theories often rely on speculation, they keep alive the idea that the royal family is more than a political institution. It is a guardian of ancestral secrets. With Elizabeth II's death, the sacred lineage narrative enters a period of uncertainty. Charles III inherits the symbolic mantle, but will he possess the same ability to resonate with the collective unconscious? Or will the monarchy face a weakening of this narrative in an increasingly skeptical world? Elizabeth II not only upheld the relevance of this lineage, but adapted it to a modern world. Her death, however, leaves a void. What will become of this spiritual heritage? Will it continue to influence global events, or will it be relegated to the past as a historical curiosity? The sacred lineage is more than a legend. It is a pillar of the British monarchy's symbolic power. Elizabeth II, throughout her life, embodied this ideal almost perfectly, but her passing leaves us with more questions than answers. To what extent do these traditions shape the future? And to what extent are they shaped by the invisible forces governing our reality? The idea that the British monarchy plays an active role in global secret councils may seem like bold speculation, but there are numerous historical and cultural indications supporting this theory. Elizabeth II, as a respected royal leader, is believed to have acted as a mediator in a global network of influence extending beyond politics, touching on spiritual and strategic dimensions. But what is truly known about these councils? And what might the monarchy's role be in this hidden system of power? One of the most intriguing points is the monarchy's connection to the Bilderberg Group, an annual gathering of world leaders, corporate executives, and royalty. Officially described as a forum for discussions on economics and politics, the Bilderberg Group is often linked to global decisions that remain out of public view. The presence of the British royalty, either directly or indirectly, at these meetings suggests that their role is not merely symbolic. Did Elizabeth II attend these gatherings as a figure of consensus or as a spiritual strategist? Additionally, the monarchy's spiritual influence in such councils can be interpreted through its connection to Hermetic and esoteric traditions preserved over centuries. The Order of the Garter, a chivalric order founded in the 14th century, is seen as a channel for perpetuating occult rituals and practices. While publicly described as an honorary group, its ceremonies and symbols carry traces of alchemical and Kabbalistic teachings. Elizabeth II, as head of the order, would have played a central role in safeguarding this knowledge. The impact of Elizabeth II's death on such secret circles raises significant curiosity. During her long reign, she was viewed as a pillar of stability, not just in the United Kingdom but globally. Her absence creates a vacuum that could be exploited by emerging forces. Can Charles III, despite his alignment with environmental and progressive causes, assume this position in a council that demands balance between the spiritual and the strategic? There are also indications that these councils' decisions extend beyond political and economic issues. Global events such as financial crises, climate change, and geopolitical conflicts often coincide with significant astrological cycles. This raises the question: are these coincidences the result of hidden knowledge being strategically applied? Was Elizabeth II an influential figure in these critical moments, using her wisdom and access to spiritual advisors to stabilize the global stage? Another intriguing layer of this theory is the connection between the monarchy and recent technological advancements. Some theorists suggest that these secret councils, including royal figures, play an active role in determining when and how certain innovations are introduced to the public. Since the Industrial Revolution, Britain has been a cradle of technological revolutions, and the monarchy's influence in this process may not be merely symbolic. Elizabeth II, with her global vision, may have aligned these changes to ensure balance on both spiritual and material levels. Royal symbolism plays a key role in these narratives. The scepter, crown, and orb, often dismissed as mere ceremonial objects, are seen by esoteric scholars as channels of spiritual energy. These items appear at key moments, such as coronations and funerals, but may also be connected to rituals conducted out of the public eye. The Queen's influence in these events suggests a deep relationship between these objects and global energetic balance. A less discussed element is the monarchy's relationship with the Vatican. Throughout her life, Elizabeth II held meetings with popes and other religious leaders. While officially described as diplomatic gestures, these encounters raise speculation about a collaboration on a spiritual level. Could the British monarchy be aligned with the Vatican in a network of influence that transcends religious matters, reaching into the domain of global energies? During World War II, for instance, many historical events were directly influenced by the British monarchy. The actions of George VI and, later, Elizabeth II were pivotal in shaping alliances and strategies. However, little publicized documents suggest that significant decisions were made in closed meetings, possibly involving secret councils and spiritual practices to guide leaders during times of crisis. Another fascinating aspect is the idea that Elizabeth II served as a mediator between different global spiritual traditions. Her role as head of the Commonwealth brought her into contact with diverse cultures, religions, and esoteric practices. These interactions may have been aimed at aligning energies on a global level, reinforcing spiritual unity among nations that might otherwise be disconnected. The absence of Elizabeth II in this secret council creates an impact that is not yet fully measurable. What is known is that her presence offered a point of stability and consensus essential for a group operating on such complex levels. Will the British monarchy continue to play this role, or will new figures emerge to occupy this position? The concept of a global secret council blends elements of reality and fiction for many. However, the monarchy's influence on crucial decisions throughout history suggests there is more at play. Elizabeth II may have been one of the guardians of this invisible balance, and her absence creates room for new forces that could significantly alter the course of events. With her discreet demeanor and long reign, Elizabeth II maintained a balance between the visible and the hidden. Her death leaves us questioning what comes next in this intricate chessboard of forces that govern the world. Are we entering a new era of revelations, or will the mystery continue to shape our destiny? Throughout history, monarchs have often been linked to prophecies foretelling the destiny of civilizations and spiritual cycles. Elizabeth II, with her long reign and global influence, inevitably became a focal point for such narratives. Her death, beyond being a political and historical milestone, is interpreted by many as the fulfillment of ancient predictions, both in the spiritual realm and within humanity's collective unconscious. Among the most discussed prophecies are those of Nostradamus. While his predictions are frequently open to interpretation, some of his writings mention the transition of a great dynasty and the ensuing chaos. Scholars of his works often associate these descriptions with the British monarchy, particularly the end of Elizabeth II's reign, which, for many, symbolized the last solid link to an era of stability. Nostradamus suggests that such transitions mark moments of global restructuring. Could her death have triggered this process? The prophecies of Monarchy, traditionally applied to papal succession, also offer intriguing parallels. A broader reading of these predictions suggests that the collapse of traditional institutions, including the church and the monarchy, would culminate in a spiritual transformation of the world. Elizabeth II, as the head of one of the West's oldest and most symbolic dynasties, is viewed as a marker in this prophetic cycle. Her death might signify the end of an era where spiritual and political power were intertwined. Elizabeth II's longevity and the stability she embodied are frequently described as a spiritual archetype. Her 70-year reign coincides with complete cycles of spiritual renewal mentioned in various traditions. In Kabbalah, for instance, the number 70 is associated with fulfillment and transition. The fact that her death occurred after this cycle reflects synchronicity with these traditions, as though she represented a pillar that maintained balance until the moment of a great shift. Beyond Western prophecies, Elizabeth II's connection to global spiritual traditions adds another layer of interpretation. During her visits to Commonwealth nations, she participated in ceremonies honoring indigenous and ancestral cultures. In many of these cultures, she was viewed as a spiritual figure of power, a mediator preserving harmony among different energies. Does her death symbolize the weakening of these global connections, or are we on the verge of a renaissance for these traditions? A fascinating aspect is how Elizabeth II seemed to embody the archetype of the last great queen. In a world where monarchies are declining as power institutions, her figure served as a living reminder of an era when kings and queens were seen not just as rulers but as divine representatives on earth. This archetype, present in various cultures, resonates with the idea that her death signifies the end of a spiritual cycle, paving the way for new forms of leadership and global organization. The global coincidences surrounding her death also raise questions. Events such as economic crises, natural disasters, and geopolitical tensions seem to intensify around this time. For mystics, this is no coincidence. Many believe the death of a figure as symbolic as Elizabeth II can trigger global energetic shifts, aligned with prophecies that predict turmoil before a renewal. Elizabeth II's interactions with religious leaders from various traditions are also notable. Throughout her reign, she met with popes, imams, rabbis, and shamans, consistently emphasizing the importance of spiritual coexistence. These encounters, often interpreted as diplomatic gestures, can also be seen as acts of spiritual alignment, connecting different traditions during a time when fragmentation seemed inevitable. Her death, therefore, represents a loss not just for the monarchy but for the global spiritual network she helped sustain. Finally, there is the impact of these prophecies on the collective consciousness. Elizabeth II was more than a person. She was a symbol of constancy in a changing world. Her death prompts reflection on the role of spiritual and institutional leadership in times of transition. Who will step into the role of mediator now that she is gone? Are we prepared to face the challenges of a new era without figures symbolizing stability? When examining these prophecies, it is important to remember that they are not just predictions of events but reflections of the collective unconscious. The association of Elizabeth II with these spiritual narratives highlights how her presence transcended political roles, connecting to something greater. Her death may mark the end of a prophetic chapter, but it also signals the beginning of a new cycle whose implications we have yet to fully understand. The artifacts of the British monarchy are more than ceremonial symbols. To many, they represent gateways to spiritual traditions and sources of energy that transcend the material world. Each piece, from the legendary Stone of Destiny to the ceremonial bells used during solemn moments, carries stories beyond the visible, suggesting a hidden role in rituals and the maintenance of an energetic balance that has shaped centuries of reign. The Stone of Destiny, also known as the Stone of Scone, is one of the monarchy's most intriguing artifacts. For centuries, it was used in the coronation of Scottish and British monarchs. According to tradition, the stone is linked to Jacob's ladder described in the Bible, symbolizing a connection between heaven and earth. More than a historical object, it is seen as a channel of spiritual legitimacy for its bearer. Its transfer to Scotland in 1996 sparked debates and speculations, raising the question: could removing the stone from Westminster have weakened the monarchy's spiritual power? Another artifact that transcends its symbolic role is the Sword of State, used in important ceremonies such as the state opening of Parliament. While publicly regarded as an emblem of justice and authority, historical accounts suggest the sword was also employed in rituals of purification and protection. During periods of instability in the realm, it is said to have been used in private ceremonies designed to align energies and safeguard the throne. The idea that a physical artifact can wield spiritual influence reinforces the monarchy's deep connection to its role as a guardian of hidden forces. The ceremonial bells used in funerals and coronations are another example of artifacts with unique spiritual significance. During Elizabeth II's funeral, the bell tolled 96 times, once for each year of her life. This repetition, aside from being a tribute to her longevity, can also be interpreted as an act of energetic alignment. In esoteric tradition, specific sounds and frequencies are used to harmonize energies during times of transition. Could these tolls have been a way to ensure Elizabeth's spiritual legacy was sealed at the moment of her passing? The ceremonial robes worn by monarchs also possess hidden meanings. Embroidered with symbols referencing alchemy and Kabbalah, these garments go beyond decoration. They are designed to protect the wearer on an energetic level, functioning as a kind of spiritual shield. During coronation rituals, the robes signify the transformation of the individual into a sacred figure, symbolizing the union of the earthly and the divine. The imperial crown, orb, and scepter are the most well-known artifacts, yet their deeper spiritual roles are rarely discussed. The crown, adorned with precious gems like the Koh-i-Noor diamond, carries stories of conquest, curses, and power. The scepter, featuring the Cullinan eye, the largest cut diamond in the world, is interpreted as a channel for amplifying divine energy during ceremonies. The orb, with its cross atop a globe, represents the alchemical balance between the material and the spiritual. What few know is that these items are meticulously guarded and rarely handled outside ritual moments, as if reverence for their latent power demands caution. Among the lesser-known artifacts are the rumored spoils of the Crusades stored in the royal vaults. Though never officially confirmed, rumors suggest the monarchy may possess relics linked to the Holy Land, including items associated with the Holy Grail. If true, these objects would represent more than historical conquests. They would be carriers of energies that directly influence the spiritual equilibrium of the world. The relationship of these artifacts with ley lines also deserves attention. Many believe that the arrangement of objects during ceremonies, such as coronations or funerals, is carefully aligned with these natural energy lines connecting sacred sites worldwide. According to esoteric practitioners, this alignment amplifies the energetic impact of rituals, ensuring the throne and realm stability. The role of these artifacts is continually evolving. With Elizabeth II's death, the responsibility for preserving and using these items now passes to Charles III. But will he understand and respect their spiritual role as his mother did? Elizabeth II was known for her reverence for traditions and her care in maintaining rituals. Charles, with his more progressive stance, may adopt a different approach, potentially redefining the use of these artifacts within the context of a modern monarchy. Moreover, the energetic impact of these artifacts is not merely theoretical. Historians and occult scholars frequently point to events where the use or absence of certain objects coincided with periods of instability or renewal. For instance, the absence of the Stone of Destiny during previous coronations was seen as an omen of difficulties for the monarchs involved. Will its presence or absence continue to influence the kingdom's fate? Ultimately, the artifacts of the British monarchy are not just pieces in a historical collection. They embody the essence of a spiritual legacy, serving as bridges between the past and present, between the material and the divine. Throughout her reign, Elizabeth II ensured these objects were treated with the reverence they deserve. Now, with her passing, it remains to be seen whether the next generation will keep this tradition alive or reduce these items to mere symbols of a bygone era. Elizabeth II's reign transcended the boundaries of political power and entered the realm of spirituality, solidifying an energetic legacy that resonated globally. For 70 years, she became a symbol of stability and continuity in a constantly changing world. But beyond the visible, what did Elizabeth truly represent in terms of spiritual energy? And how does her death impact this balance? One of the most striking aspects of her legacy was her ability to unite diverse spiritual traditions and cultures. Elizabeth II was not just the monarch of the United Kingdom. She also led the Commonwealth, composed of countries with varied religions, rituals, and belief systems. In many of these nations, she participated in local ceremonies, including indigenous blessings, tribal offerings, and spiritual rites that connected her to the energies of those peoples. For the spiritual leaders of these cultures, the Queen was not just a state figure but an energetic mediator who respected and amplified the connection between different worlds. Her longevity is another aspect that amplifies her spiritual significance. In various traditions, long lives are seen as a sign of special souls destined for important missions. The fact that Elizabeth was crowned in 1953 and reigned for 70 years positions her as a marker of a complete cycle of energetic transformation, a symbol of stability during times of dramatic change. It may not be a coincidence that her death coincides with a moment of global uncertainty, leading many to interpret it as the closing of a greater spiritual cycle. The global reaction to her death also revealed her figure's impact on the collective unconscious. In the days following her passing, billions around the world turned their attention to the Queen in a moment of mourning and reflection. This collective focus of emotional energy is rare and powerful, creating a phenomenon that resonates on unseen levels. For energy field scholars, such moments of unified attention have the potential to create vibrational shifts on a global scale. Even more interesting is how her death opened space for a new spiritual dynamic within the monarchy. Charles III does not merely inherit the throne. He takes on the responsibility of maintaining the energetic balance Elizabeth represented. However, with his focus on modern causes such as sustainability and climate change, his approach may alter the monarchy's role as a spiritual anchor. Is he prepared to take on the role of energetic mediator in such a fragmented world? Elizabeth's spiritual legacy is also tied to her presence at global centers of power, but in a more dynamic sense. During her reign, she participated in events aimed at unity, such as interfaith ceremonies and peace initiatives. These moments, often overlooked by the general public, reveal a facet of her leadership that transcended politics. Her ability to inspire confidence and stability during crises can be seen as a manifestation of her spiritual energy. A striking example was her response to the collapse of the Soviet Union and the transition to a new global balance. While the world seemed on the brink of chaos, Elizabeth remained a figure of constancy. For many, she represented an anchor point, a force preventing global energy from destabilizing entirely. This perception, though subjective, reflects the depth of her impact on the collective unconscious. Another important aspect is how her death was marked by collective mourning that transcended borders. In the days following her passing, it wasn't just British subjects paying tribute. Tributes were seen in diverse cultures across Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. Each ritual, prayer, and ceremony performed in her memory added layers to the energetic impact of her death, creating a global wave of reverence and connection. Furthermore, her relationship with ancestral spiritual traditions raises questions about the continuity of this role within the monarchy. Elizabeth preserved a heritage that, while subtle, permeated her actions and decisions. Now, with Charles III on the throne, it remains to be seen whether this connection will be maintained or whether a rupture will alter the monarchy's energetic nature. Finally, Elizabeth II's spiritual legacy can be seen as a bridge between the past and the future. Her death marks not just the end of a reign, but also the beginning of a new era in which the monarchy will be challenged to redefine its role in an increasingly skeptical and fragmented world. For many, Elizabeth was more than a person or a title. She was a stabilizing energy, an anchor in times of chaos. With her absence, the question arises, who or what will assume this role? Will Charles III be able to uphold this spiritual legacy, or will we see a departure from the traditions Elizabeth preserved? Regardless of the answer, the impact of her death will continue to reverberate, shaping the future in ways we cannot yet fully comprehend. Elizabeth II left behind more than a political legacy. She embodied stability, tradition, and spirituality in a constantly transforming world. Her death marks the end of a profound energetic cycle, reflecting changes that extend beyond the borders of the United Kingdom. Whether through her connection with hidden artifacts, spiritual prophecies, or her unique ability to unify different cultures and traditions, she remains a symbol of balance and continuity that influenced both the visible and invisible planes. Now, the monarchy faces the challenge of preserving this heritage in a modern context. With Charles III on the throne, will it be possible to sustain the spiritual role that Elizabeth represented? Or are we witnessing the dawn of a new era, where the power and symbolism of royalty will be redefined? If you're interested in exploring more about spirituality, I've specially selected a few videos filled with deep insights and fascinating discoveries for you to enjoy. Just click on one of them. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue this journey of self-discovery and spiritual learning. Your commitment to knowledge is the first step to transforming your reality.